Section 6.4, the percent equation. In the last video, we talked about the percent proportion and where we had A over W equals P over 100, where this is representing the part, this represents the whole, and this is my percent. And this was actually fairly easy. Most people actually like this in talking to most students. However, there's another way of solving these things, and it's called the percent equation. And it's very familiar, very similar, but just a little twist on it. We have A is equal to P times W. A still represents your part, all right? P is your percent, but this time it's written decimal form. And lastly is our whole. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through these problems. I'm going to go with a couple with you. And let's be truthful. I can solve all these problems on this piece of paper by using the percent proportion that you learned in last video. However, for the sake of this video, I really want you to be able to use this equation. A is equal to P times W, where the part is equal to the percent as a decimal times the whole number. And if we use this, I will also be honest on this, knowing how to multiply it this way will actually be more, will save you time later on. However, for our intents and purposes, I'm cool with this if you want to use this primarily, but for today's assignments, I really want to be working with this, all right? Now, with that said, we had what number is 35% of 80? All right, so we need to kind of remember what is our part and what is our whole. Well, and what is our percent? In this particular one, it's really straightforward. Again, we can write it down. 35% written as a decimal. If you remember, we move our decimal places to the left twice. Is going to be 0.35. We're going to multiply that number by the whole. And when we look at it, we have a whole of 80 because of 80. We know that that's my whole. And so I'm trying to find out what the part is. So A is equal to 0.35 times 80. And that's just a matter of plugging things into our calculator now. I'm going to clear this out. 0.35 times 80 gives me 28. So A is equal to 28. Now, to prove that this works, I'm going to show you the proportion just to kind of keep it up. We know that this is my proportion. All right, 35 would have gone here, my 80 would have gone here, and my A would have gone here. I'm going to cross multiply and divide. I've got 80 times 35 gives me this. Divide by 100, and I get that A, again, is 28. So this is another way of doing it. To me, it doesn't matter ultimately which way you do it when it comes to maybe on a test day. However, for now, I do want to practice this method because ultimately this is going to be more important to you doing it this method, especially when you get closer into algebra type stuff. All right, let's go on to 2. 8 is what percent of 5? All right, so in this particular case, we don't know the percent, so I'm going to leave P there. We can look at it and it says 8 is. Based upon that, we know that that is actually our part because of this piece. It says of 5. So that right there would be my whole. Now that I have that, I'm going to simplify this. 8 is equal to P times 5. We can rewrite that to say 8 is equal to 5P. And now we have to kind of remember how to solve equations by dividing by 5 on both sides. All right, when I do, 8 divided by 5 gives me 1.6. So 1.6 is equal to P. Now, here is the thing. This is the percent in decimal form. This is correct, but I need to show you a Mr. Lewis word, the corrector way of doing this. This is good, but we have to remember we need the percent, not the decimal. So we need to take that 1.6 and move a decimal to 2 places to the right, put a 0 here, and ultimately my percent is 160%. That is my final answer. All right, I'm going to do 3 with you. What percent, okay, so we're using P again, we don't know what it is, of 125. Because it says of 125, that means that that is my whole, and 50 is my part. Now that I have that, I can rewrite this as 50 is equal to 125 times P. I'm going to use this over here, 50, and divide by 125. Why am I doing that? Because I have to get P by itself. Very simple, straightforward equation. All right. And then once we're done with that, I can cross that out. 50 divided by 125 is equal to 0.4. So 0.4 is P, but remember, we don't want the decimal, we need the percent in this, so we have to change it back into a percent by moving it over twice, and when we do, we get 40%. Why don't you try questions 4, 5, and 6 on your own? All right, so number 4, you should have had an equation that looks much like this with the answer of 400 is your whole. For 5 and 6, you should have gotten 24% and 25%. You know how to find me if you've got questions. All right, let's look at the last problem, number 7. You receive 15% of the profit from a car wash. How much money do you receive from a profit of 300? So, right from the get-go, if we were to look at our formula, A is equal to P times W, we know that our percent is going to be 0.15 because we can change this by moving the decimal place over 2 times, and that changes there. And we know that we're getting a portion of it, so we're trying to find out how much that is, so that's going to be my part. And then my whole is the $300. So now that I have that, it's just a matter of plugging 0.15 times 300 into my calculator. And when I do, got a weird glitch there, I get 45. So out of $300, you get 45 bucks. And that's it for this video. Pretty short one. I don't think it's too terribly difficult. Like I said, if this is something that you're struggling with, I'm not too worried about if you use the other method, if you like that method to help you out. However, I do want you to kind of try this in this video and on this assignment. Try to get into this pattern. As always, come find me if you need me, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.